Dr. Amanda Brooks hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the coffee growing cold beside her sophisticated array of monitoring equipment was forgotten. Her eyes were fixed on the anomalous readings that had first appeared 16 days ago, readings that shouldn't exist. "Run it again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the implications churning in her mind. The deep space monitoring program's quantum computers hummed, processing the data for the 100th time. The results remained unchanged. A massive fleet of unknown vessels had just passed Jupiter's orbit, and they were definitely not human. The observation room at Mauna Kea Observatory fell silent as the high-resolution images finally rendered on the main screen. Crystalline ships, their geometric patterns defying known engineering principles, moved in perfect formation. Too perfect. Dr. Brooks. Her assistant's voice quavered. "Shouldn't we alert the authorities?" Amanda was already reaching for her secure phone, but her trained scientist's mind hadn't stopped analyzing. The fleet's movement was fascinating. Each ship maintained exactly the same distance from its neighbors, turning in precise angles that seemed almost predictable. "Get me Major Reynolds," she barked into the phone. "Priority Alpha." Jack Reynolds was notorious in military circles for his unconventional thinking. While others saw him as a maverick, Amanda knew he was exactly who Earth needed right now. Within minutes, his gruff voice filled her office through the secure line. "This better be good, Brooks. I was about to win at poker. Jack, remember that bet we made about not being alone in the universe? You owe me a drink." She transmitted the data packet through their encrypted channel. The longest 30 seconds of her life passed as he reviewed it. "Well, I'll be damned," he finally breathed. "But you're not calling just to collect on that bet." "Look at their formation," Amanda urged, pulling out the latest scans. "Every ship moves with mathematical precision. No deviation, no adaptation to the surrounding space debris. They're either showing off, or they can't think any other way," Jack finished, his tactical mind already racing. "Send me everything you've got. I need to make some calls." The next 12 hours became a blur of activity. As world governments were notified, Amanda noticed something else in the data. The alien fleet had sent a small scout ship ahead, which had already passed Mars. Its transmissions back to the fleet were encrypted, but the pattern analysis was clear. They were scanning for technological signatures, weapon systems, and energy emissions. "They're looking in all the wrong places," she muttered, reviewing the scan patterns. The aliens were searching for unified defense networks, centralized command structures, and standardized military responses. Everything humanity had never managed to achieve. Major Reynolds came to the same conclusion during their emergency briefing with the Joint Chiefs. They're expecting a primitive species with either no resistance or a simple unified defense they can easily overwhelm. Instead, they're going to hit a hornet's nest of different military doctrines, technologies, and strategies. Will that be enough? The chairman of the Joint Chiefs leaned forward, concern etched on his face. Amanda stepped up to the holographic display, highlighting the fleet's rigid formations again. Their entire approach screams of a civilization that values order above all else. Every movement, every scan pattern follows strict mathematical principles. They're looking for what they understand. And they understand unity, Reynolds added with a grim smile. But humanity's greatest strength has always been our chaos, our ability to adapt and think differently from one another. They're not ready for that. As if to prove her point, the various military representatives in the room were already proposing wildly different response strategies. The Chinese delegate advocated for immediate shows of force, While the Russian general suggested cyber warfare, the European Union proposed diplomatic contact, and the American generals were split between three competing defense plans. The alien scout ship's final transmission reached its fleet. Primitive civilization detected. Standard conquest protocols authorized. Amanda Brooks allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had just made their first mistake. They had grossly misunderstood what primitives were capable of when backed into a corner. Lieutenant Jessica Ghost Winters crouched beneath the wing of her F-52 Wraith fighter, the latest in quantum stealth technology. Montana's bitter wind whipped across the underground hangar of Malmstrom Air Force Base, but she barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the tactical display showing 3 Zek-30 vessels entering Earth's atmosphere. They really chose the wrong base to hit first, she muttered, checking her flight suit's neural interface. Around her, her squadron, the 71st Chaos Dealers, prepared for launch. They were an experimental unit, chosen for their unconventional flying styles and ability to think outside normal tactical doctrine. All pilots, this is Ghost, she announced over the squad channel. Remember, these bastards fly like they got rulers up their alien asses. Use it against them. The first explosions rocked the surface installation above. Right on schedule, the base's conventional forces engaged in what appeared to be a disorganized retreat. The alien ships, sleek, crystalline structures that gleamed in the morning sun, moved into a perfect triangular formation to pursue. Chaos Dealers, time to crash their party. Jessica grinned as her cockpit sealed. The quantum engines hummed to life, nearly silent thanks to Dr. Brooks' breakthrough in particle physics. Launch in 3, 2, 1. The hangar doors whispered open, revealing a small crack barely wide enough for a fighter. To the aliens above, it would look like nothing more than a maintenance shaft. Their sensors, calibrated to detect standard military formations and large energy signatures, missed the 12 Wraith fighters completely. Jessica's squadron slipped out one by one, their quantum stealth systems making them virtually invisible. Years of dogfighting against human opponents had taught them that predictability meant death. Each pilot in her squad flew differently, some aggressive, some defensive, some seemingly random, making their group behavior impossible to predict. Contact in 10, her AI co-pilot announced. Alien vessels maintaining standard pursuit formation. No indication they'd detected us. The Zek-30 ships were closing in on the retreating ground forces, their energy weapons charging. Jessica watched their movement patterns through her neural interface. Just as Dr. Brooks had predicted, they maintained mathematically perfect spacing and followed textbook pursuit procedures. Too perfect, Jessica whispered. Chaos Dealers, execute Madhouse protocol. What happened next would be studied in military academies for decades to come. 12 Wraith fighters attacked from 12 different angles, each using a different approach. Some came in hot and fast, others lurked at the edges using hit-and-run tactics. A few seemed to deliberately fly wrong, breaking every rule of aerial combat. The alien ship's response was telling. They attempted to regroup into a defensive formation, but their programming couldn't handle the seemingly random attack patterns. Their perfect triangle broke apart as each ship tried to track multiple threats that refused to behave according to any known combat doctrine. They can't adapt. Jessica rolled her Wraith into an impossible turn, quantum engines allowing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Press the advantage. The first alien ship fell to a combination of attacks it couldn't process. A head-on assault from Jessica, while Lieutenant Marcus, Crazy 8, Rodriguez hit it from below with an experimental chaos drive that disrupted its crystalline structure. The second soon followed, its defensive systems overwhelmed by attacks coming from vectors its tactical computer insisted were impossible. The third ship, perhaps showing the first signs of actual tactical thinking, attempted to retreat, but fear made it even more predictable. Captain Sarah Wildcard Martinez intercepted it with a maneuver she'd invented during a drunken simulation run, what the squad called the Martinez Spiral of Death. "Command, this is Ghost," Jessica reported, watching the last crystalline ship break apart in the Montana sky. "First engagement complete. You're not going to believe our casualty report." "Try me, Lieutenant." Major Reynolds' voice crackled over the secured channel. "0, sir. We didn't lose a single pilot. They couldn't hit what they couldn't predict." In orbit, aboard the Zexthari flagship, Admiral Verthak received the battle report with growing concern. For the first time in his 3 centuries of military service, he faced an enemy that didn't follow any logical pattern of combat. It was, he realized with dawning horror, only the beginning. Commander Mike Hawthorne stood in the cramped submarine bay of the U.S. Barracuda, studying holographic projections of the captured Zexthari fighter. 6 days of intense analysis had revealed something that made the veteran SEAL grin. The aliens' obsession with order extended to their security protocols. "They really don't have random patrols," he muttered, watching the simulation of crystal-armored guards moving through the carrier's corridors. Each movement was precisely timed, each rotation exactly measured. It's like they've never heard of improvisation. His hand-picked team crowded around the display. Chief Petty Officer Lisa Wrench Rodriguez, their tech specialist, pointed to the carrier's environmental systems. "Look at this, Commander. They regulate everything. Temperature, pressure, even the artificial gravity, to exactly the same levels throughout the ship. No variations." "Because variations mean chaos," Lieutenant James Shadow Chin added, his eyes gleaming. "And chaos means us." Hawthorne nodded, remembering countless missions where unpredictability had kept his team alive. "That's our way in. They won't look for what they can't imagine." The plan was audacious, even by SEAL standards. Using stealth suits modified with the same quantum tech as the Wraith fighters, they would approach the carrier in a miniature sub launched from the Barracuda. The alien vessel hovered 30,000 feet above the Pacific, acting as a command and control center for the Western Invasion Force. "Suit check," Hawthorne ordered as they prepared to launch. Each team member's stealth suit was a masterpiece of human ingenuity. Adapting Dr. Brooks' quantum tech meant they could briefly exist slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. The alien sensors, designed to detect solid matter and energy signatures, would see nothing. "Remember," he addressed his team one last time, "we're not here to fight fair. We're here to prove why humans are the galaxy's worst nightmare." The ascent was tense but uneventful. Their sub, running silent with minimal power, rose through the clouds like a ghost. Above them, the crystalline carrier gleamed in the moonlight, its perfect geometric form a testament to the Zexthari's rigid nature. "Approaching entry point, Alpha," Wrench whispered, though sound couldn't travel in their sealed suits. Old habits died hard. Their maintenance cycle begins in 3, 2, 1. A small port opened in the carrier's hull, exactly on schedule. The team slipped inside behind a Zexthari maintenance drone, their quantum-shifted forms causing no disruption to its sensors. Inside, the carrier was a maze of crystalline corridors, each identical to the last. But where others might see confusion, Hawthorne saw opportunity. The aliens' love of patterns made their ship layout predictable. Security patrol approaching. Shadow warned, checking his modified scanner. Exactly 17 steps until they turn, just like the simulations. But instead of hiding, Hawthorne led his team straight down the corridor. The Zexthari guards marched past, their crystalline armor gleaming, completely oblivious to the humans walking barely a foot away. Their sensors, calibrated to detect normal matter, missed the quantum-shifted seals entirely. They reached the carrier's central processing core without firing a shot. Wrench pulled out their secret weapon. A quantum data bomb loaded with the most chaotic thing humans had ever created, a compressed copy of the entire internet. "Let's see them process cat videos and conspiracy theories," she chuckled, setting the device. "Their whole system is based on logic and order. This should be fun." The effect was instantaneous. As terabytes of human digital chaos flooded the alien systems, alarms began blaring. But even these were perfectly timed and mathematically spaced. The Zexthari crew, faced with data that defied their logical protocols, began running diagnostics that only made things worse. "Time to add some physical chaos to the mix," Hawthorne announced, pulling out specially designed charges. "Plant them randomly. That'll really mess with their heads." As his team scattered through the carrier, planting explosives in completely unpredictable locations, Hawthorne couldn't help but admire the irony. The aliens' greatest strength, their perfect order, had become their greatest vulnerability. Against an enemy that embraced chaos as a way of life, they never stood a chance. Above the Pacific, the mighty Zexthari carrier began to drift, its crew desperately trying to understand why their perfect systems were showing them pictures of something called Grumpy Cat, mixed with classified military protocols. Ethan Parker's fingers danced across 6 holographic keyboards simultaneously. His neural implants processing data streams faster than any normal human could comprehend. The former Black Hat hacker, now drafted into Earth's cyber defense force, had spent 3 sleepless nights analyzing the Zexthari network protocols captured during Commander Hawthorne's carrier raid. "Got you, you symmetrical bastards," he muttered, a grin spreading across his face. His underground bunker in Silicon Valley, hastily converted into a cyber warfare command center, hummed with the energy of quantum processors. Their entire network, he explained to the gathered team of international hackers, is built on perfect mathematical harmony. Every packet, every bit of data, follows the golden ratio. It's beautiful. He paused for dramatic effect. "And that's exactly why it'll break." Dr. Brooks' voice came through their secure channel. "What did you find, Parker?" "They don't just love order, Doc. They physically can't process disorder. Their A's fundamental architecture requires everything to follow mathematical patterns. Show me a species' computer systems, and I'll show you how their minds work." On his main screen, he pulled up a visualization of the alien network. It was a perfect crystalline structure, each node positioned with mathematical precision. Beautiful, elegant, and completely vulnerable to human chaos. "Time to introduce them to humanity's greatest digital weapon," Ethan announced, initiating his attack sequence. Social media. The first wave hit the Zexthari fleet's communication systems like a tsunami of nonsense. Millions of cat videos, conspiracy theories, and conflicting political memes flooded their networks. Their AI, designed to find patterns and logic in data, tried desperately to categorize pictures of Doge and understand why humans were so obsessed with something called Rickrolling. Phase 1 complete, reported Maria Santos, his second-in-command and former anonymous leader. Their primary firewalls are having an existential crisis. Ethan nodded, launching Phase 2. Let's show them what real chaos looks like. Release the Twitter archives. The alien systems, already struggling with cat videos, now face the ultimate test, trying to find logical patterns in human social media behavior. Their advanced AI attempted to create predictive models for human online interactions, but each attempt crashed when confronted with the pure chaos of internet culture. "Sir," called out Jin Wei, their quantum security expert, "they're attempting to adapt. Their AI is trying to create new classification algorithms." Ethan laughed. "Perfect. Time for Phase 3. Release the TikTok trends." The effect was devastating. The Zexthari network, desperately trying to understand why humans would suddenly start dancing to specific songs or filming themselves drinking hot sauce, began experiencing cascading failures. Their perfect crystalline data structure couldn't handle the concept of viral trends that seemed to have no logical origin or purpose. High Commander Verthak, Ethan broadcast directly to the alien flagship, "You might want to see this." He transmitted a specially crafted packet of data, a compilation of every internet meme making fun of the invasion, set to "Never Gonna Give You Up." The response was immediate. Entire sections of the alien fleet's network began shutting down as their AI tried to comprehend why humans would respond to an existential threat by making jokes about it. The perfect mathematical harmony of their systems shattered against the chaotic creativity of human internet culture. Dr. Brooks, Ethan reported, watching satisfaction as confusion spread through the alien fleet. "Remember how they thought we were primitive because we had thousands of competing computer systems and protocols? Let me guess, that's actually our strength." Exactly. They built their entire civilization on the idea that progress means perfect unity. But humans, we thrive on digital chaos. Every virus we've ever created, every meme war we fought, every social media platform that spawned its own culture, it's all made us stronger. On his screens, the alien fleet's communications were degrading into gibberish as their systems tried to process the unprocessable. Somewhere in the chaos, an alien AI had discovered YouTube comments and was now stuck in an infinite loop trying to find logical patterns in human internet arguments. "Should we show mercy?" Maria asked, watching the digital devastation. Ethan cracked his knuckles. "Nah, let's show them our final weapon: K-pop fan communities." In high orbit, the mighty Zexthari fleet learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate a species that turned digital chaos into an art form. Captain Rachel Martinez crouched behind the ruins of what had once been a phoenix strip mall, her thermal camouflage suit blending perfectly with the desert heat. Through her augmented reality contact lenses, she watched 3 Zexthari patrol units march down the empty street in perfect formation, their crystalline armor gleaming in the Arizona sun. Like clockwork, she whispered into her tactical comm, "Third patrol today, exact same route, exact same timing." She checked her chronometer. They'll turn left in exactly 15 seconds. But this time, they wouldn't complete their route. "Apache team, you beautiful chaos merchants," she grinned, "show them how we dance in the desert." The attack that followed broke every rule in conventional military doctrine, exactly as planned. From the east, a group of Navajo scouts using modernized traditional tactics struck silently. From the west, urban warfare specialists who'd learned their trade in countless gang conflicts emerged from the heat mirages. Former cartel members turned resistance fighters attacked from the south, while Martinez's own Special Forces team completed the ambush from the north. Each group used different weapons, different tactics, and different battle rhythms. The Zexthari combat computers, programmed to predict and counter standardized military responses, went into cascade failure trying to process the multiple, contradictory attack patterns. This is why you don't invade a planet where every city fights differently, Martinez muttered, watching the alien formation crumble. Our AR lenses highlighted the confusion in their movements. Each time they adapted to one style of attack, they were hit by something completely different. Captain, the call came from Tommy Two Hawks, their Navajo tactical expert. They're trying to call in air support. Same response as last time. Perfect. Martinez Cater Quantum Encrypted Com. Ghost Riders, Europe. Show them why humans own these skies. Above them, apparently empty air shimmered as local civilian pilots flying retrofitted crop dusters and private planes decloaked. Each aircraft had been modified with salvaged alien tech and good old human ingenuity. They flew in patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on decades of local knowledge about desert wind patterns and thermal currents. The Zexthari air support, arriving in precise military formation, never stood a chance against pilots who'd spent their lives flying through dust storms and canyon winds for fun. Ground team, close the net, Martinez ordered. Remember, no pattern, no rhythm. Fight like your ancestors taught you. What followed was a symphony of chaos that would have made any traditional military commander have a stroke. Navajo warriors used ancient hunting techniques with modern weapons. Street fighters employed Parker and urban warfare tactics that defied prediction. Former criminals brought their own brand of violent creativity to the battle. The aliens, faced with this tsunami of tactical disorder, made their fatal mistake. They tried to impose order on the chaos. Their attempts to force the battle into recognizable patterns only made them more vulnerable. Look at them, Martinez observed, launching another quantum-shifted attack run. They keep trying to make us fight properly. They still don't get it. Her AR lenses captured everything for tactical analysis. The Zexthari troops, their crystalline armor cracking under the assault, attempted to reform their lines 3 times. Each time, the humans simply flowed around their formations like water around rocks, striking from new and impossible angles. Captain, her AA tactical advisor chimed in. They're attempting to access their combat database for counterinsurgency protocols. Martinez laughed. Let me guess, they're looking for patterns in historical human guerrilla warfare. Affirmative. Their systems are experiencing severe processing delays trying to reconcile the Apache Wars, Vietnamese tunnel tactics, and modern urban combat simultaneously. The battle ended not with a dramatic final stand, but with the Zexthari forces simply falling apart. Unable to predict or counter the multi-layered chaos of human combat styles, they retreated in disarray, leaving behind shattered crystalline armor and broken tactical assumptions. Phoenix is cleared. Martinez reported to command. And command. Tell the other resistance cells. The more different ways we fight, the harder they fall. These aliens don't just want unity, they need it. Let's give them diversity instead. Across the American Southwest, other cells were already learning from Phoenix's success. Each city, each region began developing its own unique combat style, turning the occupied territories into a nightmare kaleidoscope of unpredictable resistance. Colonel James Mad Dog Wilson sat in his underground laboratory at Cheyenne Mountain, surrounded by holographic displays showing Zexthari behavioral patterns. As Earth's leading military psychologist, he'd spent weeks analyzing combat footage, intercepted communications, and captured alien technology. But it was a child's crayon drawing that finally made everything click. Dr. Brooks, he called out, his voice carrying the excitement of breakthrough. Remember how kids draw perfect shapes when they're young, then gradually learn to be creative. The Zexthari never made that transition. They're literally incapable of abstract thinking. Amanda Brooks looked up from her quantum calculations. Explain. Wilson gestured at the displays. Every single thing they do, from their ship formations to their individual movements, follows mathematical precision. At first, I thought it was just military doctrine, but it's deeper. They physically can't process randomness. It causes them actual psychological distress. He pulled up footage from Lieutenant Winter's aerial battle, Captain Martinez's desert warfare, and Commander Hawthorne's carrier raid. Look at their responses. Every time they encounter something that doesn't fit their mathematical models, they experience what humans would call a panic attack. So, how do we weaponize this? Brooks asked, already seeing where this was going. Wilson's grin was predatory. We give them a cultural overdose, every form of human creativity, all at once. Art, music, dance, warfare, everything that defies their need for perfect patterns. The operation began within hours. Using the communications breakthroughs from Parker's cyber team, they started broadcasting across all Zexthari frequencies. Jazz improvisation played alongside classical symphonies. Abstract, expressionist art was transmitted next to Renaissance masterpieces. Street dance videos ran alongside ballet performances. Monitor their fleet responses, Wilson ordered his team. The results were immediate and stunning. The first wave of cultural transmission caused confusion among the alien crews. The second wave triggered widespread system errors as their computers tried to categorize and organize the chaotic stream of human creativity. By the third wave, including modern art and experimental music, entire sections of their fleet began experiencing collective psychological breakdowns. Sir, called out Lieutenant Sarah Foster, their xenopsychology specialist. We're detecting massive spikes in their stress indicators. Their brains literally can't process why humans would deliberately create asymmetrical art or atonal music. Wilson nodded, moving to Phase 2. Time to show them how we fight. Upload the combat footage database. Thousands of hours of human combat footage flooded the alien networks. Ancient samurai duels played alongside modern special forces operations. Street fighting techniques mixed with classical military formations. Every culture's unique approach to warfare, from Zulu tactics to Swiss Guard procedures, all transmitted simultaneously. Their tactical computers are trying to find a unified human combat doctrine, Foster reported, watching the alien fleet's increasingly erratic responses. They keep searching for the correct way humans fight. Show them the final, Wilson commanded. Release the cultural fusion database. The last transmission was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, K-pop groups performing to death metal, while Parker athletes danced through classical ballet sets. Street artists creating masterpieces on Renaissance sculptures. Modern military units employing ancient tribal tactics with futuristic weapons. The effect on the Zexthari was catastrophic. Their rigid minds, evolved to seek perfect order, couldn't handle humanity's ability to not just tolerate, but celebrate chaos and fusion. Ship after ship reported crew members experiencing severe psychological distress. Dr. Brooks, Wilson called out, watching the aliens' perfectly ordered fleet begin to show signs of disarray. I think we just proved that creativity isn't just an art, it's a weapon, and against an enemy that can only think in straight lines. We're the ultimate psychological warriors, she finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. Our greatest strength isn't our technology or our numbers. It's our ability to embrace chaos, Wilson concluded. Every piece of art that breaks the rules, every fusion of different styles, every creative leap that defies logic. It's all been preparing us for this moment. Above Earth, the mighty Zexthari fleet faced its greatest nightmare, a species that had turned disorder into an art form, and art into a weapon of war. Tyler Davidson hadn't left his quantum-shielded bunker beneath Manhattan for 3 weeks. The tech billionaire's underground facility, originally built as a data center for his AI research, had become humanity's most ambitious weapon development site. Surrounded by holographic displays and quantum processors, he watched his life's work evolve into something the aliens could never have predicted. RIA. He addressed his quantum AA, "Show me the current simulation results." The A's response came not in words, but in a dazzling display of combat predictions. What made ARIA unique wasn't her processing power. It was her ability to replicate human unpredictability. Each quantum circuit had been modeled on human neural chaos, creating an artificial intelligence that thought as randomly as its creators. "Sir," his chief engineer, Marcus Wong, called out from his station, "the Zexthari fleet is making their final push. They're heading straight for New York." Davidson smiled. "Of course they are. Their logic tells them to strike at Earth's financial heart." He keyed in the activation sequence for ARIA's combat protocols. Time to show them why that logic is going to fail. Across New York City, thousands of seemingly ordinary objects sprang to life. Traffic lights, subway systems, construction equipment, everything connected to the city's infrastructure network became part of ARIA's neural web. The city itself was becoming a weapon, guided by an AI that thought like a human. "All resistance cells. This is Davidson," he broadcast. "Operation Urban Chaos is live. Fight like New Yorkers." The Zexthari never saw the real attack coming. Their sensors, searching for conventional military responses, missed the hot dog vendor whose cart concealed a quantum disruptor. They didn't suspect the subway maintenance worker who activated electromagnetic pulse generators hidden in the tunnels. Even the graffiti artists, spraying seemingly random patterns, were part of the plan. Their paint contained nanobots programmed by ARIA. "They're deploying ground forces in Central Park," Wong reported. "Standard grid pattern." Davidson nodded to his screens. "RIA? Show them why that's a mistake." The AI coordinated her response with beautiful chaos. Construction cranes swung in unpredictable patterns, creating a deadly dance above the alien formations. Subway trains emerged from unexpected tunnels, their modified engines unleashing electromagnetic pulses. Even the city's pigeons had been enlisted, their neural implants allowing ARIA to create living smoke screens. "Sir," Wong's voice carried excitement. "They're trying to adapt their tactics, but ARIA's randomness algorithms are overwhelming their combat computers." On the main display, Davidson watched his masterpiece unfold. RIA wasn't just fighting the aliens. She was learning from every human resistance fighter, incorporating their spontaneous decisions into her evolving strategy. Each time the Zexthari developed a counter to one tactic, she had already shifted to 12 new ones. "Fascinating," Davidson muttered, watching the alien fleet's perfect formations break apart over Manhattan. "They can't predict what we'll do, because even we don't know what we'll do next." The battle for New York became a testament to human ingenuity. Street vendors turned their carts into weapons platforms. Taxi drivers executed combat maneuvers that defied both physics and common sense. Construction workers used their equipment in ways that made their safety training instructors cry. And through it all, ARIA wove the chaos into a deadly symphony. She coordinated with human resistance fighters not by giving them orders, but by adapting to their spontaneous actions and amplifying their effectiveness. "They're retreating from Midtown," Wong announced. "Their command structure is breaking down. They can't handle the simultaneous unpredictability of human fighters and an A that thinks like us." Davidson watched as the mighty alien fleet, confronted with a city that fought back like a living organism, guided by human chaos, began to withdraw. Their perfect formations were shattered, their crystal ships bearing scars from weapons they hadn't even known to look for. "Send word to the other cities," he ordered. "The key isn't to fight as a unified force. It's to embrace our chaos, our creativity, our uniquely human way of turning everything, even our technology, into an expression of unpredictability." Above Manhattan, the Zexthari fleet learned perhaps the most important lesson about humanity. Even when we create artificial intelligence, we teach it to be as beautifully chaotic as we are. Dr. Amanda Brooks stood in the command and control center of Cheyenne Mountain, watching humanity's chaotic masterpiece unfold across a wall of holographic displays. Every screen showed a different aspect of what the history books would later call the Day of Beautiful Disorder. "Status report," she called out, though the victory was already evident in the disarray of the Zexthari fleet above. "New York's ARA system has them scattered in the east," reported Major Reynolds, his voice carrying the weight of exhaustion and triumph. "Lieutenant Winter's chaos dealers are herding their western fleet right into Martinez's desert trap. And Parker's cyber warriors," he chuckled. "Well, their communication networks are now playing nothing but cat videos and K-pop." Brooks nodded, her attention drawn to a particular tactical display. The Zexthari flagship, once the epitome of crystalline perfection, now moved erratically through high orbit. Its commander, the mighty Verthak, was about to learn humanity's final lesson. "All units," she broadcast globally, "execute Operation Butterfly Effect." Across the planet, every human resistance cell launched their attacks simultaneously, but each in their own unique way. New York's AIA-guided chaos machines struck from impossible angles. Phoenix's desert warriors emerged from the heat mirages like vengeful spirits. London's underground fighters turned their city's ancient tunnel network into a labyrinth of death. But it wasn't the coordination that broke the aliens, it was the deliberate lack of it. "They're trying to find the pattern," Carl Wilson reported from his psychology station. "Their entire command structure is built on the assumption that any effective military action must follow logical protocols. This," he gestured at the beautiful chaos unfolding across the displays, "this is breaking their minds." The Zexthari fleet's response proved his point. Each ship, facing a different type of human warfare, attempted to adapt individually. But their rigid hierarchy couldn't handle decentralized decision-making. Orders contradicted counter-orders. Formation broke against counter-formation. Incoming transmission, Parker announced from his cyber warfare hub, "It's Verthak himself." The alien commander's hologram appeared in the center of the command room. His crystalline form, once perfectly geometric, showed signs of stress fractures. "You," Verthak's translated voice carried genuine bewilderment. "You have no supreme commander, no unified strategy, no perfect formation. How can you be winning?" Brooks stepped forward, allowing herself a small smile. "That's precisely why we're winning, Admiral. You saw our chaos as weakness, our diversity as primitive, our unpredictability as a flaw. But here's what you never understood. Chaos isn't our weakness, it's our evolutionary advantage." She gestured to the displays, showing humanity's 1,000 different ways of fighting. Every war we've fought against ourselves, every cultural clash, every competing ideology, they weren't holding us back. They were preparing us for this moment. We don't just tolerate chaos, we thrive in it. Verthak's hologram flickered as another wave of human attacks struck his fleet. Impossible. A species cannot advance without unity, without perfect order. That's where you're wrong, Brooks interrupted. True advancement isn't about achieving perfect order. It's about learning to dance with chaos and humanity. We've been dancing for millennia. The alien commander looked at his tactical displays, watching his perfect fleet crumble against humanity's symphony of disorder. We cannot comprehend how to fight this. Exactly, Brooks said softly, and that's why you've lost. The retreat, when it came, wasn't a coordinated withdrawal, but a panicked flight. The mighty Zexathari fleet, unable to impose order on humanity's chaos, simply broke apart. Each ship, for the first time in their species' history, acted independently, and in doing so, finally displayed the very unpredictability they had feared. As the last crystalline ship vanished into hyperspace, Brooks turned to her team. Send word to all Earth governments. Tell them to save every record, every video, every scrap of data from this war. Future generations need to understand what saved us. And what's that, Dr. Brooks? Asked a young analyst. She smiled, watching the celebrations erupting across 1,000 different cultures, each celebrating victory in their own unique way. That humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to impose order on chaos. It's our ability to turn chaos itself into an art form. Above, the stars twinkled in their ancient, chaotic dance, a reminder that the universe itself preferred beautiful disorder to perfect symmetry.